Hey guys, Level Cap here, and welcome to devlog number 38 for a spaceship game called C-Beams. Welcome to devlog number 39, devlog number 40, number 41, number 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. I think we're all caught up. Welcome to the year 2 recap for C-Beams. We started working on this game in January of 2024, so quite literally New Year's is like the anniversary for starting working on the game. Happy New Year's, everybody. And today I want to give you a recap on everything that we've accomplished in the last year of game development. And if you're new around here, this is a great episode to get caught up on everything that's been going on with the game. Plus, you can wishlist the game over on Steam. There's a link for it in the video description, and you can follow us a little more closely on Discord for more regular updates. Now, we spent the year just kind of racing forward, always looking at the next step, thinking about what comes next, and it's nice to spend at least this devlog looking back at what we've accomplished and just seeing how far we've come. So I want to get into everything we did for the year. So firstly, in 2025, we made the reveal trailer. Funny enough, it's now actually hard for me to watch this back due to just how dated everything looks from only a year ago. But the purpose of the trailer was to get the game listed on Steam and start to slowly build interest and wish lists before entering a proper marketing phase, which we still haven't yet. The trailer required us to really polish up a lot of the rough spots on the original demo of the game so we could at least capture gameplay that looked passable. Peter Chambers, our composer, whipped together a trailer score for us as well. Now, I'm happy to say that since this reveal trailer in January, we've built up over 42,000 wish lists on Steam. We got a big hit from the initial reveal trailer, and of course, kind of a year's worth of devlogs building up to a reveal of the game, and then the rest from regular devlogs and the occasional shoutouts on other YouTube videos with no additional marketing. Because we knew we are still quite early in development for 2025, we didn't plan on putting any extra effort into marketing and save that for when the game is looking much better. So I'm actually quite pleased with the amount of wish lists we've built up over the last year, considering just how early the game was and that we've put very little effort into marketing so far. Now, to make the trailer and launch a Steam store, we also had to design the game's logo. This effort was led by Kyle Fiore, a graphic designer up in Washington, who really spent some time workshopping different ideas for us until we landed upon this logo, and I absolutely love it. Now, I put together the Steam store page and the little animated graphics. Honestly, this felt a bit more like paperwork than an actual creative endeavor. Steam really has a ton of checkboxes and hoops to jump through. In fact, we're now due for a bit of a Steam store refresh since a lot of the animated graphics and visuals are a bit out of date. Now, within the game engine, our tech artist John Lagostini finished up his damage painting system that allows our ships to retain damage to their exterior materials. We also built our first pass on tutorial missions that required building an actual mission system and task-based completion system, complete with chat boxes and basic narrative elements. We also began working with Will Jeanette, a VFX artist, to update our game's VFX, starting off with updating ship explosions and adding new thrusters and engine VFX. Again, with the help of John Lagostini, we implemented our first settings menu to quickly experiment with in-game performance and visual tuning. We added in-world target brackets to the game and new ship targeting logic to help refine the combat experience. Rich added in our first AI range-based aggression system and a friend and foe logic as well, laying kind of some of the simple groundwork for basic AI functionality. We built our first smart music player for the game, allowing for endless, non-repeating music that sounds quite good, to be honest. Big shout out to Peter Chambers for working with us to dial in those systems. He also built a scalable combat music system, which has yet to be hooked up to our in-game logic, but it's going to be epic when we actually get it. We then designed modular space stations. This involved me planning around how many assets and materials we would need and how to connect them together. Kruger, our concept artist, drawing out a lot of the station parts for us, modeling by myself and Evan Browning, a little bit of kit bashing from some some purchase store assets to fill in some gaps here and there, and then setting up the build system in Engine for rapidly designing unique space stations. We also redesigned the game's audio graphs. We found that the engine was maxing out the audio channels during especially combat sequences where weapon impact sounds were basically just not playing because we were playing too many sounds at once. So we ended up creating smart audio graphs to mix down the channels in more intelligent ways, and this ensures that we're not losing any important sound effects in the middle of combat. And while I was at it, I set up some engine submixes and automatic audio ducking. This means that if important audio, like say voiceover lines, are playing and you really want to hear it, the sound engine will compress environmental and music frequencies to make it much easier to hear that voiceover sound. Preben and John Lagostini built our first mining prototype, which is accompanied with a lot of great audio work from Panzer V1 and VFX work from Will Jeanette. And after building all the logic and functionality for this system and testing, we realized that there is probably a better way to handle this for gameplay, so we're actually going to get a Phase 2 update down the road, but there's a massive amount of VFX and mining logic here that will all transfer over just perfectly. John Lagostini also fractured our asteroid assets and built some asteroid actors that will break more dynamically. He also implemented a layered material system that we can use for painting ships and stations quickly to change their materials and colors in-game for greater ship variety and dialing in the visuals as quickly as possible. Rich began learning the Unreal Performance Analysis systems to dive into the deep stats of how to optimize Unreal Engine systems, reduce hiccups, and figure out what exactly is actually slowing down our game versus just theorizing. And we kind of set a hard rule throughout the years, like stop guessing as to what's slowing down and actually look at the data. And that way we can actually put our optimization efforts towards the most important things. Rich updated our weapon development pipeline and built new weapons like laser systems, recoilless turrets, railgun turrets, and wheel chambers, and Panzer V1 added the VFX and sound effects to help these weapons come alive. Rich built the Phase 1 star map for setting jump coordinates to other systems and having a visual representation of locations and levels, which is great. It's the map for our game. We also started working with Nico, who is basically a graphic designer specializing in UI and UX experiences, and he's helped us develop a new look for our UI, which is still being implemented as we speak, but it's making the game look a lot better. We then upgraded from Unreal Engine 5.4 to Unreal Engine 5.6. This brought us some performance enhancements and tools that we really wanted to use, though it didn't come without its own problems, and it ended up breaking our Bink videos, which we were using for our tutorial missions. This forced us to recompile a bunch of those tutorial videos as basic H.264 compression, and we'll see if Unreal fixes Bink down the road. Preben built and implemented a dynamic camera system, which replaced our standard camera for one with tons of combat framing logic, multiple zoom levels, post-processing effects that we can trigger when we want, screen shake, and all kinds of extra stuff. Rich and Preben updated the physics of ships to support dynamic mass, so the ships themselves will get heavier and more sluggish as they ingest additional cargo. This was a really exciting feature to first test out, and I think it's going to be the backbone of hauling ships versus combat ships and how they fly and perform differently. Rich designed Phase 1 of our procedural level system, which will populate levels procedurally with things like asteroids, points of interest, and more. The system will continue to evolve as it becomes the backbone for building environments and unpredictable content. We then designed smaller asteroid bases and overhauled the asteroid base interior models with help from Evan Browning for the modeling work. This also meant updating our large asteroid base as well, and it's very nice to see some of these assets just get refined and polished up. We designed a new smuggler stash, aka treasure chest. Rich integrated the very first phase of our inventory system to allow us to trade and sell items and move them around and even jettison them out into space. Evan Browning modeled our new cargo container so that we can have some nice variety to show different items in space. We updated and expanded our tutorial system to include include an additional mission, and we're still partway done with the final main tutorial sequence that will bridge over into the open world gameplay. Very excited about this progression. Now, with the concept art from Kruger and Island and the modeling help from Evan Browning and my support with doing some basic modeling, material work, UV and decal work, we built 15 new spaceships for the game, with still more in production and just not finalized yet. And I also want to give Panzer V1 an additional shout out, as he didn't get mentioned here enough, but basically every single system we built in the game that required sound effects, he was there making those sound effects for us. They might have been small little bits of work here and there, but all together they ended up being a huge amount of sound effects for the game, and he's done a phenomenal job. Now, if you've watched every single devlog over the last year, you will have seen us cover most of these features, but we have some new stuff specifically for this devlog. They include adding space debris to the game. Evan and I have been working on the designs for space debris. This is still a bit of a work in progress, with larger space debris testing currently underway. We now have lootable scrap metal floating around in space and collidable space debris that just adds a fun ambiance to the game. Rich also put together the logic for derelict ship actors. We've had placeholders for derelict ships for quite a while, but now we can actually spawn a derelict ship that can actually be moved when you bump into it, docked with, and it has its own inventory with items that you can loot off of the ship, aka it's a floating treasure chest in space, and it is awesome. He also designed the first pass on loot tables, so derelict ships can pull from a preset loot list, and this has a random chance of spawning items based on the probabilities that we set for them. Prebin has also been working hard on updating and fixing some physics issues with the game. The result will be much more realistic representations of spaceship flight and physics and collisions. It's not quite ready for the main branch of the game, and it is very hard to show off the differences since I'm essentially just showing ships flying through space, but I gotta say the feeling of ships now is just getting better and better. So overall, I am incredibly happy with what we accomplished in year 2. I set forward a extremely ambitious checklist that didn't even fit into the amount of weeks we had in year 2, and we nearly accomplished every single item on there. There are a few last little bits of core tech that we need to develop, such as a player skill tree, and we also need to do some deep dive into the AI to flesh out some more interesting combat profiles. Now, moving forward into year 3, we are going to wrap up our next tutorial and demo system. So it's basically going to transition from the tutorials into open world gameplay. I'm very excited about this, and it's going to come with a lot of quality of life updates as well. Year 3 is going to be mostly refinement, fleshing out the systems that we've already built to accomplish more and more tasks, and building out the game world and mission system. We're basically going to be building the game world this year, where years 1 and 2 were a lot of building tools and assets that we were going to need to build the world. This year, we're actually diving into it, and I gotta say, I am so excited. Can't wait to update you guys on everything that's going to be coming your way. I really appreciate everyone for sticking with us on this game development journey. When we began, we hadn't really used Unreal Engine before. Now we're quite comfortable with it, and I think 2026 is going to be an extremely exciting year for the game. Once again, if you guys want to wishlist us, we are on Steam. The link is in the video description, and as always, thank you so much for watching. You can catch other devlogs right here. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.